Three, three, two, two, one, one. Welcome back. This will be the final video for Grinning Goat's Lightforge Arena preview valuation stream for Rastakhan. This is Adwicta.
This is Merps. Let's do it.
We will finish with the strongest class, the one that's absolutely defining the meta currently before Rastakhan, and we will see if it will still be a strong class after Rastakhan. But before we say any of this, this is the class that is at the center of the entire meta, because it warps the meta so much by doing things that no other class does. Whereas all the other classes at least have other classes doing vaguely similar stuff. Like, oh, druids can get on the board and buff everything. Shaman tries to do that too, right? Like, rogue is also kind of unique in there. So, but warrior's more warping because it's so controlled. And so if Blizzard hits the balance button and brings the win rate and the offering rates for warrior stuff down to a reasonable level, then we're in kind of a different meta. And that has nothing to do with Rastakhan.
Yeah, Warrior has shaped the meta so much that when I play now, I do not play mid-range, right? And we can define that as like essentially, with a focus on tempo, but my high end or my end game is not as kind of value centric as warriors or a lot of priests are, but I'm not as aggressive as, like a lot of super aggro kind of like token druid or hunters can be. And warriors single-handedly have kind of killed that, that area, which has been a staple for Arena. And it's just because of their stupid ability to remove everything and like have so much value at the end, in which with their warpaths and omega assemblies that you are showing right now, like very good Vanna White impression, by the way. So yeah, what I have done is I either need to go toe to toe in terms of value or kind of inevitability and fatigue with warrior, and doing that with another warrior or priest or some mages maybe, but it's tough to get. Or I need to beat them down really fast. And that's why I've been playing a lot of Hunter and having success with that as well, right? So it's rare to find a class that has single-handedly not just dominated in terms of win rate, but also warped and almost made an entire kind of like section of the arena playstyle extinct.
Yeah. And that's Warrior. Like, Warrior's terrible for the meta. People give them a pass because they were like crap for so long, but that doesn't mean it's good to make them the overpowered class. Not this way, at least. Not with your warpaths, especially. So let's see. What was problematic? Warpath being able to hit a lot of multiple things. Bloodrazor potentially problematic, hitting multiple things. There was the Super Collider hitting multiple things. So these are things that Warriors never were able to do back in the day, and they started doing them. And guess what? Welcome to Rastakhan, Sol Tharaz. This is the #1 rated card by us in the entirety of Rastakhan, which, to be fair,
it's not. Blastwave was, remember?
Oh yeah, sorry, Blastwave was. This is #2.
Blastwave, yes.
Blastwave was. So this is #2. That's another overkill card. So this is #2, and that is still like really like high. But at a 177, it's basically on the same level as Gorehow and Super Collider by our rating. And even Arcanite Reaper is very close to it. And Bloodrazor is above these guys. That's how our rating system is working for Warrior right now. Bloodrazor because of the efficiency less than the actual like full power level. And Sol Tharaz is right there with them, we think. So how does this card work? It's a 6 mana 4/4 that has overkill. You may attack again. So people think Fool's Bane, which was a 3/4 weapon for 5 that could not hit face but could hit as many creatures as you want. This is 1 more mana, has kind of the same effect, but you need overkill to trigger it, or it can hit face. One thing I really like about the design is not the overkill, it's just the fact that it can hit face. I get really, really annoyed when warrior weapons can't hit face, because that's one of the dimensions of warrior. When warriors are good and thoughtful and good for the meta, They are playing this game where they need to determine when they hit face and when they go for value with their weapons. And that's what Sultaraz does. Now, it's definitely leaning towards the board, right? When you may attack again, but also maybe not, right? If you want to clear something on the board, you could clear something on the board and deal 4 face damage, right? Instead of just dealing 4 face damage to the board. So most people look at it as if it's a Fool's Bane and you're trying to clear the board and how you can do that. And they're like, you can't really do it that efficiently as Fool's Bane. I'm looking at it as the other way. I'm thinking, how do I get 16 damage on my opponent's face? Well, sometimes I want to kill a creature along the way, right? That's helpful to keep my minions on the board alive or something, and maybe I do it, and I still get the same amount of face damage on that particular turn, and I just cut off the face damage from the end, which is very useful if they don't have that much like health, for example. So Sultaraz is a very well-designed card from that perspective, that it preserves the face damage, and it adds enough mana to kind of compensate for that. Now, you want to go into the overkill part of it?
No, you do that.
Okay. So the overkill part of it is if you're hitting something with 3 health or below, you get to swing again. And the next swing, if you hit something with 3 health or below, you get to swing again. Or if you hit something with more than that, your swing ends. And at 6 mana, if you're clearing a bunch of stuff that's like 3 health or below, it's not really worth it. Like, it's a very inefficient clear, even though you can get a clear because you're taking so much face damage. But if you need to space it out over several turns, it actually becomes like, that's when it gets its value. So it has a little bit of flexibility. But what you actually want to do with this card is not like hold it until your opponent gives it a board and then use the whole thing in one turn. What you want to do with this card is hold it, and then your opponent gives you a chance to like use 2 charges of it. Or if you want to start going face, to use 1 charge of it and then go face, or even just to equip it and go face immediately. Those are the situations that this card works best and you get the most value out of it.
All right. Cool. I will say this is the card in which I looked at the score first. I was like, no, like, it's good. It's not 177 good. It's like 150 good, right? You kind of talked me into it. I would say I'm not still like totally behind this, but when you're laying out all these scenarios as well, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I just didn't see all the scenarios. I like with that. We are sort of in like a world in which I'm just like, yeah, I'm kind of used to just having all these premium weapons that just don't go face, and I'm like, if I am able to go face, does it change the complexity of the game? Like, yeah, it changes it a ton, actually. Like, that is something that, and I can kind of see the value there. But, right, my initial reaction was like, wait. Okay, so if, like, you have sort of like the top tier weapons, which are kind of like the Blood Razors, the Gorehouse, and especially Super Collider, which I really like, obviously. And I'm like, no, this seems to be like just, a tier below. But you're talking me into it. We'll see, right? Like, I think at the very least, if we have sort of any disagreements, the most kind of this will settle into is just like where I said, right? Like a slight tier below these tippy top weapons, because right now it belongs there. So even if like we're wrong with the score, we're only wrong by a little bit, and like the more I think about it, the more I'm like, all right, pretty freaking good.
Yeah, and keep in mind that a lot of this works better when you have a flexible mid-rangey deck rather than a pure control deck. Just like Gorehouse is falling out of favor a lot because people are playing pure control decks, and Gorehouse, even though it has a ton of card advantage, you don't have the armor to keep up with Gorehouse if you're trying to use it in a control way. Like, Gorehouse is a mid-range / even aggro kind of like kind of card. And it kind of does the same thing, right? It hits something and then preserves more damage that you can eventually swing face to. Sultaraz kind of just does it a bit better, but a bit less. Okay. So that's Sultaraz, and we're not done. I'm going to talk about the next card. Premium 142.
Dragon Roar 142. 142 is, anything above 140 is like premium / like super premium range, right? 2 mana for this effect: add 2 random dragons to your hand. We've already seen kind of this sort of effect from something like Omega Assembly, right? In which case, warriors not only have the warpaths and they have all these sort of like, taunts and removals, they have stuff that fills their hand with end game. Dragon Roar is really good because for 2 mana, cheap, like a cheap 2 mana, you're getting random dragons, which are number 1, big, number 2, really powerful, and number 3, a decent amount of them synergize with each other and have an immediate effect on the board, right? So, yeah. Some people might think it might even be higher, but once again, you're paying 2 mana. Like, you're paying 2 mana and it's still random. And even with that, and you guys know how much our algorithm punishes that, it's still this high.
Yeah, it's you have 3 dragons out of 25 that synergize with other dragons. Although one of them, like we'll get to it, is a new dragon. This one, this Ember scaled Drake. You're just getting 5 armor. It's not like the best thing.
Yeah.
But the other 2 are good. One is deals 3 damage to everything on the board, and the other one deals 7 damage. So they're pretty powerful. And otherwise, dragons are big, right? Dragons average like 6.5 mana cost, and yeah, you have 2 shots at them. Okay, Ember Scale Dragon next up. 5 mana, 5/5. Battlecry. If you're holding a dragon, gain 5 armor. Unless you have the armor synergies. We rated a 103. It's kind of where it is. It's fine. It's doing its thing.
Yeah, it definitely works with how warriors want to play because armor is important now. It's more important than it's ever been, right? They have a lot of weapons, but yeah, like you're not triggering this super often. Like, I know we just talked about Dragon Roar, but you're not significantly increasing the number of dragons in the deck. So 103, it's okay.
Yep. Next one is Overlord's Whip. I thought this was actually lower. I'm gonna put a note to look at it.
Yeah, I thought this was lower.
This was like pretty bad last time I looked at it, so this may not be okay. Right. I'm gonna check it for.
We should skip
bugs.
this. I don't think
so.
This is correct.
Okay, so let's not talk about the score and just talk about the card and why it's bad. It's a 3 mana 2/4. After you play a minion, deal 1 damage to it. This is probably a normal 3. Like, if you don't have the ability, it's a 3 mana weapon and it seems pretty good. It's a lot worse in Warrior because there's too many charges and you have so many other weapons that you could use. So you really have to like buff its attack or something, right, to like get the actual value out of it. And then you have this ability, which is whenever you play a minion, deal 1 damage to it, which really kills the card. Like in Arena, you don't have that many synergies with getting stuff hurt, and so it's like usually just a pure negative. You're not going to use it up fast enough to be able to like do it when you want and not do it when you don't want. So this is going to be a pretty bad card. Like this morning it was like a 40. Right now it's a 102 for some reason. We'll look into it.
Yep. Okay. What is the next card? Devastate. Next card is Devastate, which is a spell, 1 mana, common spell, deal 4 damage to a damaged minion. Now, as you guys know, Execute is really, really good. We have Execute at a 138. This is just much worse. Yeah, it costs half the amount of Execute, but it also only deals 4 damage, right? And part of what makes Execute so good is when there are the amount of times in which you're happily paying 1 more mana to get like an extra 2 damage, an extra 3 damage, an extra, I don't know, whatever, to kill off that like Sleepy Dragon or Mastodon, right? So it's like, okay, you want to look at the condition first. Devastate and Execute both have the same condition, but you want the limitless kind of potential of the Execute rather than 4 damage is good, right? But yeah, like if you look at sort of these 2 scenarios, after I've like sort of after I've triggered this condition, I need more of a payoff. I need more of a payoff and more, and for warriors especially, which are trying to extract value, you need more of like like, God, I can't even talk. You want the possibilities of the Execute, essentially. The tempo doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and we'll look at this again as well. It may go up a little bit. I think there's a bug in here, but it's not going to be like a premium card. It's going to go up like 10 points. Maybe At most 15 points. But it's like, would I rather have this or a Yeti? I'd probably rather have a Yeti.
I'd much rather have a
You
Yeti.
have weapons and
Oh my
stuff to
gosh.
deal with it.
This just is not big enough. Like, I look at this card, and especially for how Warriors play right now, I'm just like, this card's just too small. It's like,
Well,
it doesn't do.
if it can deal 2 damage, it's already like okay-ish, you know? Like it wouldn't be
Sure.
worth 100 points, but it's already okay-ish. If like even 3 of its damage is actually useful, then it's like around here. It doesn't have to use like all the whole entire thing. But yeah, I don't think it's going up much. It's going to go up, I would estimate like 10 points.
Yeah. Okay.
Smolder Thorn Lancer is the next card. 3 mana, 3/2. Battle cry. If you're holding a dragon, destroy a damage enemy minion. Okay, so if you execute something, if it's a 3 mana, 3/2. That's no. You execute something if you have a dragon in your hand.
It's like, wait, it executes something? If it is itself, that's pretty good. Battle cry. If this card is what it is, destroy a minion.
Okay. But
Eight.
yeah. You gotta hold a dragon though. So for dragon decks, otherwise the 3 mana 3/2 kind of sucks. I don't like
Really
dragon
sucks.
synergies.
Yeah.
Like they're just not. Ugh.
Right, because it's like you can do very little to prevent your opponent from having a dragon, or to even know if they have a dragon, right? Like they could be holding a card for a while. I can't make a read that's a Smolder Thorn Lancer, right? I don't know, and I can't do anything about it. And mechanics like that, just it's like it's not skill testing. It's just it like you're increasing the pile of games that are 1/loss without me applying any skill to them, right?
Yep.
That's it. Cool. All right. Next card is Spirit of the Rhino. 1 mana, 0/3, stealth for 1 turn. Your rush minions are immune the turn they're summoned. This is just algorithms from like how many rush minions you're gonna have, right? Okay.
You spend 1 mana, you give immunity to a rush minion. That's not even worth it. Like, no. So you got to do something else with it in addition to the body. And like, how many rush minions do you really have? And it's not like your rush minions are just immune. They're only immune the turn they're summoned, so you have to keep playing them.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Last card that we have is Heavy Metal. 6 mana. Rare spell. Summon a random minion with cost equal to your armor up to 10.
Man.
You know, like, how much armor are you really going to have? This is the arena, right? How much arena are you going to have?
Not enough to make this card worth it. It's 6 mana.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I will say, in this sort of meta, I've seen high armor, like a lot more than old players might have envisioned, right? And it's why this is like a 39 and not a 0, you know? But yeah, it's still a 39. Yeah, so
it's way too situational. All right. Now we're on to the legendaries. The legendaries.
Yep.
2 more cards before we're done with all of Rastakhan, guys. First all legendary. Right. War Master Voon, 4 mana, 4/3, copy dragons. Let's not do that. We don't have a lot of dragons in our hands. We have very few dragons, and if we do, we can copy it and basically get an extra card, which would be good, but you're not going to copy all the dragons. You're definitely not going to have all the dragons in your hand. You're going to have like 1 dragon at most. So, it doesn't trigger all that often. It's a 89, not a very good card.
Right. Next, we have Akali the Rhino. This is 78 score. 8 mana, 5/5 beast with rush. Overkill. Draw a rush minion from your deck. Give it +5/+5. So, a couple of things here. Like, number 1, you can only play this on turn 8. Number 2, you know, you're rushing only at 5/5 and you have to overkill something, right? So something has to have like 4 health. And then in order to get value, you have to have another rush minion from your deck, right? Like this is all things that you have to have in order for this to be even a decent, like in order for it to be a good card. Like you have to trigger all of those. If you don't trigger one of these conditions, it's just not a good card. It's like really, really bad.
Yeah,
So on
so it's a
average,
78. It's not
yeah.
like it's not going to trigger. Your deck has to be built well. Like it's don't invest in this card. I wouldn't even try to build a deck around it. Like it gets so little value. All right. Well, that's it. So now that we looked at all the warrior cards, where do you think warrior is going? This is the determinator of the meta.
Let's begin by saying, whenever we look at these cards, and I don't say this enough, but I'm assuming everyone knows. Whenever I say whether a card is good/bad, when it comes to applicability for you guys, when it comes to it's like, well, do I draft this or not? Everything is determined by the buckets, right? It's like, is like if you guys look at a card like Tar Creeper, right? It's like, is Tar Creeper good? Oh yeah, it's a good card. We know it. It's a strong card in the arena. Now, would you take Tar Creeper if it's up against, like the Meteors or the um like Silver Sword? Wait, is it up against Silver Sword right now?
Tar Creeper? Oh, maybe.
Yeah,
Silver Sword's always very
maybe,
lowly
right?
bucketed.
God, that is stupid. I was like, well, would you take it against this
No,
premium card?
It's not. It's not up against Silver Sword.
Oh,
Fire Plume Phoenix could be up against Silver Sword though.
that's stupid. Okay.
Tar Creeper is just out of Silver Sword range. Like if it got moved up one bucket or Silver Sword got moved down like a half bucket, it would be in the same range.
That's idiotic. Anyways, so whenever we talk about these cards, it all comes down to where are they bucketed, right? And sometimes it's not even just about how high they're bucketed, but certain buckets because of what they're up against, right? If if you look at a specific synergy and all those synergy cards are in one bucket, well, you just really water down that synergy because every single time they need to pick within the synergy, they're sort of weeding itself out, right? And like clogging it up, preventing you from picking it. So whatever we talk about, we like the meta is at the mercy of bucketing and micro adjusts, right? Micro adjusts and appearance rates. So these things are going to shape the meta. It is the primary reason that warriors right now, yes, they have good cards, but because they see them so often and they get to choose among these and have consistency, that is why warrior is oppressively good right now. The reason that Paladin, before it's getting better, but it was trashed here for like a decent amount of this meta was because Blizzard said, Paladin, you guys are not getting any good cards. Like, we're just not going to give you any good cards. And it doesn't matter how, like really how you play it. But if Blizzard says this class is going to be good and this class is going to be bad, that's it. Like they have their thumb so much on the scale that it really shapes everything. Now, having said that, Warriors should be pretty good because if you look at everything that they get, right, it's like, oh, like they got another tippy top weapon. And I know that, you don't want to be drafting too many of those like huge weapons that have multiple charges, but another option, right? It's still really, really good. So you have that. And like, what else did they get? They got Dragon Roar. Oh, does this play into their current playstyle? Yes, it's perfect for that, right? Ember Scale Drake is like fine, you play a 5-mana 5/5, like that's totally okay.
Yeah.
And right, like
Devastate works.
Devastate works. That's the only thing that you need. But the only two I really need to see is like, oh wait, they got another premium weapon, and then they got Dragon Roar, right? Let's combine that with all the Warpaths and Executes and Tar Lords, and right, they should still dominate. But once again, we're at the point in which it's like we can do these scores. You can look at scores. You can look at, okay, what's going, like, here's what we think the scores are going to be. But it's very unlike, like last year, right? And before then, where we can tell you, here's exactly how the meta is going to shape out. And we were like, we're batting really high because you can just look at it and be like, okay, here's exactly how many 2-drops you're going to get. And here's exactly
how many 3-drops you're going to get. This is what you're afraid of. These removals are going to be there. It's going to determine that this stat distribution is going to be horrible, like all this, unlike exact to the decimal point numbers.
Right. So before Boomsday, if you had like showed me all these, and you could go back to the video, and I was like, oh, Warrior got some good tools here, right? They got some good tools, but I could have never predicted this. I could have never predicted a meta in which Warrior is, I think oppressive even, right? It's like meta shifting and like kind of really annoying to play. And that's just because of micro adjusts and the bucketing. So we have, the good with bucketing and micro adjust, and we also have kind of like the bad. And one of the bad, is sort of, well, if you don't get it right. And then number two is like the unpredictability from meta to meta, expansion to expansion, and even week to week. Like I have no idea, right? I just don't know. And Blizzard, whenever they want, they can say this class is good and this class is bad, and it will happen. Doesn't matter what you want to do with it.
Yep. It's all in Blizzard's hands now. One thing I will say about Solteraz is that, one, there is some dilution happening. So a lot of the cards that are Warrior, and Warriors are really hinging on a few cards, like very specific cards. And they take these cards whenever they're offered. It's not like they have that much wiggle room anymore. And there's going to be some dilution to it, so that's going to hurt. Now, Dragon Roar will provide consistency to Omega Assembly as the card draw mechanic, which also goes on top of Battle Rage that they've always had, and so that part's going to get more consistent for the control archetype. But Soltheraz is not a great control card, because Soltheraz hurts you a ton, like more than Super Collider if you want it to be a control card. And it has like one more charge than Super Collider on top of that. And it costs one more mana. Like, it's just an inferior card to your other options. Its superiority is in its ability to go face, which is more of a flip mechanic if you want to start out with your warpaths and try to do things that way. Or you can just be on the board in the first place, right? It'll work if it's on the board. But your other cards are going to get diluted. And so I think even if Blizzard does nothing, Warrior will be less strong. Not because they're actually less strong, but because their strongest archetype is getting diluted. They're going to be more centered, which isn't saying much because right now they're very much on the control side. But once you're centering it, you're reducing their top end. And you mix that with a change in micro adjust on Warrior, and we're fine. But even without that change, I think it's going to get a little better.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that's it for us. We've done all the classes. We've done all the neutral cards. We've done all the legendary cards. And it is not even midnight, which means we got all this done in like 5.5 hours, not even 6 hours. Thank you guys for sticking around. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to this on the podcast, thank you for your support. And you said we were going to give a last round of shout outs to all of the people who have helped us in all of our stuffs.
Yeah, definitely. So once again, thank you to the entire mod team that has been here. Thank you guys for keeping things orderly and, just like banning and silencing everyone. We want to give a shout out to our YouTube. If you like our content, check us out, Grinning Goat YouTube. And thank you to DavidAttenboroughSays for editing all of our wins and just making sure everything on the YouTube just stays together. So appreciate it, man. Thank you to all of our Patreons. If you want to give us money, we would appreciate you giving us money. Go to patreon.com, Grinning Goat. And shout out to all of our top Patreons, 4P, Afro Ninja, TB, Brand New, Ingo, Kirby, Talon, Trash Bear, Zeruvi, Eric L, RV Night Train, and Shep. And of course, to everyone who, have pledged on there as well. Thank you. And, man. All right. Also, thank you to ZD Man, who goes and runs arena drafts, for providing people with a cool program that they can use to assist their drafting with. And also for helping the community by giving bucketing information.
Yeah.
Really, really important.
Lifeforce Tierlist runs on that for the bucketing information because Blizzard won't give it to us.
Nope. And that is that. Thank you to Twitch chat for listening to us live. If you guys have been here during this entire time, let me know. And I will give you a special Mercs heart. thank you. And thank you guys for listening, whether it's through YouTube or it's through iTunes or Spotify. You guys survived. You did it. And you guys will survive the next meta as well, because you're now well equipped. You have the knowledge.
We will be streaming for 8 days in a row once the meta drops. One of us or maybe both of us, depending on the day. So tune in. It'll all start at night at 7 o'clock East Coast time. And yeah, come hang out. See us try some new things. See if we can dominate the meta, or if the meta totally shifts and we need to adjust. We'll hope to see you there on our stream, twitch.tv/GrinningGoat. That's it for the Lightforge podcast / Grinning Goat Lightforge tier list valuation stream for Rastakhan. Until next time, this is Adwikta.
This is Merps. Bye, guys.